Today, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make sambal, and let me tell you, this is going to be a good one. So let's get into it.
Whipping up all of your favorite recipes.
Simply Food.
You should know by now that you're in for a treat.
Simply Food.
There's no other channel where you'd rather be.
Simply Food.
Seafood, pasta, cakes, and pies. Sing and laugh and even cry. Like and share and hit subscribe. Simply Food by TY.
Alrighty, you guys, let's go over the ingredients. You're going to need some tamarind paste. I'm using 3 different type of peppers in this recipe, one of which is finger red peppers. I have 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil. My second pepper that I will be using are bird's eye chilies. These are probably one of the hottest peppers that exist, to be quite frank. I have some belacan. Now, this right here is shrimp paste. This is often found in a lot of Asian dishes, but I would definitely say for sure in a lot of Indonesian recipes. My third pepper that I'll be using are dried chilies. You're going to need some palm sugar, 3 large shallots. I have some garlic, lime, lemongrass, MSG, and some chicken bouillon powder. You see that? You see that? You see that? Don't ask me for the damn ingredient list. Come on, Chad. Okay, you guys, so first things first, anytime you guys are working with peppers of any kind, but specifically when you're working with dried chilies, or definitely if you're working with bird's eye, please make sure that you are wearing gloves. The more you start to handle it, the more oils will be released, and you do not want to get any of that in your eyes or really anywhere on your skin. Now, I'm making a relatively large batch of this today, so I'm going to weigh this out so that way I can replicate this recipe many times down the line and I'll know exactly how much I used. But you can absolutely feel free to reduce this to your liking. So I'm going to start off by weighing out some of my dried chilies because I want to get these rehydrated. And so I want to see how many we're working with, and I'll let you guys know exactly how many I'm going to use here. We're doing all of this in real time. Let's see. I want a little bit more than that. I think I want about 6 grams worth of the dried chili. So let me just add in one more. Okay, so this is roughly about 6 grams of the dried chili. I'm now going to pour some warm water over these and just allow these to kind of rehydrate up just a little bit. I'm going to do the exact same thing for these bird's eye chilies, but I'm not going to use nowhere near as many because I need to be able to somewhat enjoy this recipe. So we're not about to get crazy with these. I can tell you that right now. Perfect. I'm doing 0.50 grams of bird's eye chilies, which is just this little amount, but these bad boys pack a mighty punch. And just so that I can tell you exactly how many finger red peppers I'm using, I'm going to weigh these out for you as well so that you can have the exact measurements. This is 59.46 grams of the finger red peppers here. Before I break down those peppers, though, I am going to rinse them down, of course, with this fruit and veggie cleaner. You guys know I use this pretty much with everything, and as always, it is listed on my Amazon storefront. I'm just going to give these a quick rinse down, and then we'll give these a rough chop. Okay, so while I'm breaking these down, I wanted to give you guys a little back history on how I first became, aware of even what sambal was. So a few years ago, I was reached out to by a company called Trova Trip, and they asked me if I was interested in hosting a vacation pretty much anywhere in the world. And I thought to myself, this must be a scam. So at first I was, pretty reluctant to reply and join in, but eventually I looked into it and found out that it was a very, very real company and a very, very real thing. So long story short, I ended up signing up to host a trip in Bali, Indonesia. Now, while I was doing this, I posted it all over online and I let my, followers know, hey, would any of you guys be interested in literally traveling across the world with me on a 7-day vacation? And I honestly did not think that anyone was going to sign up. Well, when the tickets became available within the first, I think it was hour and a half, the trip completely sold out. By the time we got there, I had 9 guests with me that literally traveled across the world. We spent 7 days in Bali, Indonesia, with a trip that literally, I think, changed all of our lives. I got 2 tattoos while I was there. I mean, literally, this tattoo that you see right here is my name in the Balinese language. And what's so interesting actually also about this particular tattoo is the person who drew out my name, which is what led me to get the tattoo, is actually the exact same person that gave me his recipe on how to make sambal. We had a couple of cooking classes while we were in Bali, and one of the things we learned how to make was sambal. Now, this is not his exact recipe. He gave me a few different versions. This is one of them. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys that little backstory on how I became, aware of what sambal was. I really wasn't aware of what it was prior to that trip. And while we were there, pretty much every meal that we had this as a side. It was either cooked in the recipe, or it was served as a dipping sauce on the side, or as a topping. Literally every time we had breakfast, this was always like at the table. So I figured, this is one of the easier things that I can kind of put together before I jump into any other Indonesian recipes. So I wanted to make sure that I shared this with you all today. And as I'm finishing up these last two, as you guys have seen, I have not removed the seeds from anything. This is definitely not a game for those that do not like spice. This is definitely very spicy, but by the time we add in the palm sugar and, some of the other ingredients here, everything should be balanced, but it is definitely going to be spicy. Okay, and now that I'm done handling all of these peppers, not only have I switched out my gloves, I've also re-sanitized my station because, again, you guys, I'm telling you, you do not want to get any of the oils from any three of these peppers on your skin. Now, as far as these shallots are concerned, I'm only going to give these a rough chop because all of this is going to be getting ran through a food processor, which I'm going to talk to you guys a bit more about that as far as how it's traditionally made in a few moments. But I'm just going to give this a rough chop so that we can kind of make it a lot easier for when we put this into the food processor itself. And I'm going to also weigh these in grams so that I can tell you guys exactly how many shallots I have here. Because again, if I'm able to perfect this the way that I'm hoping I'm able to today in this recipe, I want to make sure that I can recreate it the exact same way. And the only way that I can ensure that I do that is if I weigh out every single thing. All right, so let's add these shallots directly here. I've already tared out the weight of the initial bowl, of course. This way I can give you guys an exact measurement on how many shallots I am using. I'm really starting to get into weighing my food because, again, it really is the only real way that you can ensure that you can recreate a recipe the exact same. So for this, it is 47.41 grams of shallots. Now, if you've never worked with lemongrass before, lemongrass is probably one of my favorite herbs, to be quite frank. And typically it comes in a pretty large pack. So if you only need to use a little bit, because typically a little bit does go a long way, do not throw away the rest of it. You can always grind the rest of it down and then freeze it, just so you guys know. But to prep this, we're going to remove the edge here. I'm also going to remove the top here. And I'm going to remove these outside leaves. And it's going to start to smell very, very fragrant in just a few moments. I'm just going and I remove like the first two, layers, pretty much. And so this right here is what we're actually going to be using. The rest I'm going to be discarding. So all this can now go away. And I'm just going to give this lemongrass here a rough chop. And again, if you've never smelled fresh lemongrass, when I tell you this stuff smells so damn good. Again, just giving this a rough chop because all of this is going to be going into the food processor. And if we want exact measurements on the lemongrass, I have 3.95 grams of fresh lemongrass. For my fresh garlic, I have exactly 9.19 grams of fresh garlic, not the pre-minced stuff. As always, make sure you guys remove the tips off of the garlic. And I'm just going to give this a rough chop because, again, this is all going into the food processor. Now, like I said, I'm going to be using palm sugar in this recipe. And again, you guys, if you're not able to find a lot of these ingredients that you guys see me using in recipes, just know that you can find this stuff online. I live in an area where we have nothing exotic. So pretty much everything that you guys be seeing me use, I find online. You just got to do your research to find it. In this particular recipe, I'm using 8.63 grams of palm sugar. So what you're looking at right here is tamarind paste. If you've never had tamarind before, I actually did a taste testing video on this when I was doing like exotic fruits. And strangely enough, the best way for me to describe the taste of tamarind is literally eating a Sour Patch Kid. It is so damn good. It's very sweet, but definitely kind of sour. We're only going to use a little tiny bit of this. We don't need to use a lot. So for the tamarind paste, we are going to be using 12.48 grams of tamarind paste. And last but certainly not least, probably one of the key components and probably one of the most important ingredients that is needed in order to make a traditional sambal is the belacan. Now, this again is shrimp paste. Now, from what I've understood, this is probably one of the better brands to purchase. But I've never opened this before in real life. So what I've also been told is that the smell is about to be real intense. But in order to make a good sambal, we've got to cut some of this off, and then we need to toast this up a little bit because this shrimpy umami flavor is really what's going to give umami. It's really what's going to give the sambal its traditional flavor. So let's open this up real time. Let's see what we're working with. I have no idea how strong the smell is going to be. I have never worked with this before, so we are doing this together. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So this is what she looks like. Let me see what it smells like. Oh, everybody's so dramatic. The smell is actually not that bad. It literally just smells like ground up shrimp. It's not potent at all. Maybe it'll become more potent once we actually start to cook it. And so for this, I'm going to use, let me chop this down. Hopefully this is a decent amount. In all of the research that I've seen, when people have made this, they've used a pretty decent amount. And so I'm hoping that this chunk that I've just chopped off here will be more than enough. But let's weigh it so that, again, once I finish this recipe, I'll be able to give you guys an accurate estimate on how precise everything was. So for the shrimp paste, we will be using 14.40 grams of the shrimp paste. And FYI, that was a complete lie. The longer that stuff sat out, the stronger the smell got. She's definitely potent. She's definitely potent. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention when making sambal, the more traditional way of making it is making it in a mortar and pestle. Now, although I do clearly, as you see, have one, I'm making a pretty large batch today. So that's the reason why I am making mine in a food processor. But the more traditional way is definitely to make it in a mortar and pestle because from what I understand, that is where the full name of sambal actually comes from. All right, y'all, so let's start to add in some of these ingredients. So we're gonna go in with all of our shallots, our lemongrass, our garlic cloves, our dried chilies. I've drained the water off of those, of course. Our bird's eye chili and our finger red peppers or our finger chilies. Place the lid on this and you want to pulse this. You do not want this to be completely smooth. Now, if you want yours to be smooth, you know, that's completely up to you. But I do want just a little bit of texture to this to start off with because we are going to be cooking this off for a little bit of time. So I would rather have a little bit of chunkiness kind of starting off and let it kind of break its way down versus kind of liquefying this. And then I'm just left with like liquid. I don't want like a sauce. I want some texture. And woo! This shit's about to be good and spicy as hell. And y'all are probably wondering why on earth am I making such a large batch of this? First of all, like I said, you can use this on a lot of different things. You can eat this on your everyday life with just basic, like even like American foods, to be quite frank. I've seen people put sambal on top of pizza, chicken. You can put it on fish. You can use it as a marinade. You can use it in omelets. This is something that you can use in a little bit of everything, especially if you are a lover of spice. Perfect. Let me show you guys what we're looking like here. Scoop this back. You guys can see how pretty that looks. It's blended down beautifully, but as you can see, there's still some texture to it. And that's exactly what you want. Okay, so one of the first things we want to do is we want to go on ahead and toast our fish paste first. I've not added in any oil whatsoever. And I'm just going to allow this to kind of toast up, and I'm going to break this down as small as I possibly can. This should really only take maybe about 2 to 3 minutes. Make sure you're mixing it around. You don't want it to burn, but this is essentially really waking up the flavors before we add it to the actual pot. And this is definitely a good time to open up your damn windows and turn on the vent because, my God, on today the smell is very strong. Now that I'm starting to see a little bit of smoke come from the pan, I can actually turn off the heat and just finish this off without the heat even on. Literally all you're doing is trying to toast this. You're not trying to cook it. You know, you don't want it to burn. So once you start to see smoke coming up on the pan, you can go on ahead and turn the heat off. But as you can see, I'm continuously mixing it around while I'm breaking it down into very, very small crumbles because you do not want to bite into a large chunk of this. Woo! Jesus, the smell! Yada! And as you can see, now I've gotten this down into small crumbles. Like I said, this took about 2 minutes or so, and now we're all done with that. All right, so now in my wok, like I said, I'm going to add in 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil. You can also use peanut oil if you would like. Alrighty, you guys, so I'm just starting to see a little bit of smoke starting to billow off of my wok, so that means that it is now time for us to go on ahead and add in our peppers. Be very careful as you're adding this in. Make sure that your windows are open and that you also have your fan on. Add in the shrimp paste, add in the palm sugar, the tamarind paste, 1 tablespoon of the chicken bouillon powder, 1 teaspoon of MSG, and we're gonna start off with 1 teaspoon of coarse kosher salt, and we can add in more salt as we need it. Give this a good mix until everything is fully incorporated. I've now turned the heat down low, and I'm actually going to allow this to simmer for probably about 15 minutes. All right, you guys, this is looking absolutely fantastic. I mean, look at this beautiful color. It smells absolutely insane. It is definitely taking me back to me being in Indonesia. This smell is very, very familiar to me now. So now that this has been cooking for about 15 to 20 minutes or so, I'm going to go in and add in the juice from 1 entire lime. Give this one final mix and allow this to go for about another 5 minutes, and then this is all done. We'll give it a taste. I'll see if I need to add in any additional salt or if I need to add in any additional palm sugar. All right, y'all, I'm going to go in for a taste test. I am absolutely terrified because I have no idea how spicy this is about to be. Oh, God. Here we go. Okay. Oh my God, I made sambal. The spice is perfect. It is definitely spicy, but it's not overwhelming whatsoever. It definitely leaves like a little bit of tingling in your mouth. I honestly think it only needs maybe like a half a teaspoon, maybe more of salt. Actually, you know what? No. I think that 1 teaspoon is enough. It's perfect. I'm not going to add anything else to this. I'm going to allow this to fully cool down, and then we're going to transfer it over to the container that I'm going to store it in. Oh my God, I just made sambal. And now I'm literally just transferring this over to my storage container. This can last in the fridge for up to a week, but I say that if you know that you're not going to use it within that time, you can always place this in ice cube trays and freeze it so that you can always have some in stock and it'll stay nice and fresh. But you guys, I am very proud of how this turned out, and I cannot wait to utilize this in a bunch of different recipes.
Slaying in the kitchen.
Simply Food by TY.
We hope that you enjoyed it.
Simply Food by TY. If you haven't took the time, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.